Joining us now from here in Washington is Hogan Gidley. He's the White House Deputy Press Secretary for President Trump. It's great to see you. How are you? Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks
Absolutely.
for the time.
I won't quiz you on trade, but I am going to get into what's happening on the fact that we have the shutdown is over.
Right.
But now it's on to this February 8th deadline for passing some kind of DACA. Now, Lindsey Graham, Jeff Flake, and Dick Durbin, the three of them, they want a plan that they tried to foist on the president that a senior House member tonight, very senior, told me would never even be brought up for a vote, Hogan.
Right. It would never be brought up, is what I'm hearing as well. And if it ever got to the president's desk, it would never be signed. The president was very clear. We all got to see the 55-minute show with the bipartisan bicameral meeting in the cabinet room. Coming out of that, the president said, for my national security package, I need four things. That is border security with a wall, ending chain migration, ending the visa lottery, and a lasting solution for DACA.
Well, Luis Gutierrez over the weekend said we gave him the money for his stinking wall. That he had the money. He didn't really care about, he cares about the wall, but we gave him that. What is the real truth about that? Not
true. In fact, the Graham-Durbin bill didn't cover any of the things the president outlined that he wanted. In fact, it made the situation much worse. It increased illegal immigration. It granted amnesty to upwards of 8 million people. It did not fund the wall, and it kept chain migration going. And real quickly, the Migration Policy Institute says we have about 3.25 million people here that are dreamers and DACA recipients that would have received amnesty. Graham and Durbin also in the bill wanted their parents to receive 3 years in the country, and then once they were all here, they gave them the right for chain migration as well. So you're talking about 8 million, 10 million people by the time it's all said and done. It was absolutely incredible.
Now, President Trump won in about 3 different states. It was Wisconsin, Ohio, I think Pennsylvania. I think that's right. But about 80,000 votes gave him the election.
Sure.
Now, you're talking millions of new voting American citizens, many of them probably beholden to the Democrats. What does that mean for the Republican Party?
Look, you'll remember when Ronald Reagan actually did give amnesty, I don't think he got but 30% of any of the folks that came here through the amnesty package then. The president is completely opposed to this package. Graham and Durbin both were negotiating with him.
Flake.
And Flake as well. They brought it to the president. They promised him it did everything he wanted. And the border piece, the wall piece, as we just talked about, DHS did a study and said we need, not want, but we need $18 billion for the wall. This was less than 1/10 of that. They were talking about $1.6 billion for the wall. It didn't fund a thing. Graham and Durbin know it, and now the lid's been blown off, and everyone sees them for what they are.
I want to play a soundbite for you, and we're going to get back to Lindsey Graham because he's driving the bus on this.
Absolutely.
And I want to talk more about that. But they're blaming Stephen Miller. That's their new target. It was, Bannon, then they go through the list. Now it's Stephen Miller. Let's watch.
Stephen Miller is the reason that the president backed away from that immigration decision.
They're not going to get there by this path of allowing essentially Stephen Miller and Tom Cotton to be, in charge of all the policy in the United States.
The reason we yank these things back is because Mr. Miller, his view of immigration has never been in the mainstream of the Senate.
Trump rocks the baseball cap. Lindsey doesn't work. Sorry, just doesn't work for him. God bless him. All right, so now it's Stephen Miller's the big boogeyman. I mean, they're shifting, but the Stephen Miller running policy, running all the immigration policy, the president just doesn't know what's going on. That's the other thing they're saying.
Right, they're trying to have it both ways.
And Lindsey Graham has said this repeatedly about Miller, about Cotton, about Perdue. He's attacking all of them, and in a few minutes I'm going to explain why they're attacking me too, but go ahead.
No question. And look, I know Stephen Miller very well. I've worked with him now for the 3 months I've been in the White House, and we spend a lot of time together. Stephen Miller serves at the pleasure of the president, as do I. What Stephen Miller was hired to do is execute what the president wants done. This is the president's plan. It's not Stephen Miller's plan, and Lindsey Graham knows that, and there's no reason for him to call out. In fact, there's no daylight between Donald Trump and Stephen Miller on immigration. Neither is there any daylight between Dick Durbin and Lindsey Graham on open
Why does
open
Lindsey Graham get to go on television? Once again, I'm sure they're all really nice people. They do not track the president's views on immigration. You saw that poll. That Harvard-Harris poll, Hogan, shows that the American people want immigration levels, even legal immigration levels, reduced. The president is squarely in the mainstream. Lindsey Graham is a radical fanatic on amnesty. He has been for more than 10 years. Frankly, I mean, I'm being harsh here, but that's a fact.
A quick anecdote. He is on the fringe on this. The polls show it. But look, I was in South Carolina. I'm from there. He was my senator. I was executive director of the South Carolina Republican Party. At our state convention, 2,000 Republicans booing Lindsey Graham for his stance on immigration because he wants open borders and amnesty. He always has, and it's his right to have that position. But don't pretend as though you had to have a meeting of the minds with Dick Durbin and you gave up something to get something. You guys, Dick Durbin and Lindsey Graham and Jeff Flake, have been on the same page on this policy for decades.
Hogan, thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely.
Really
thank you, too.
And the trade quiz is coming later.